There was a handsome stranger in town. He was charming, funny, and most importantly, he had money. And so when he rented your place for a few weeks, you were thrilled. You thought this would be an easy, lucrative job. But then things started to go wrong. Things that couldn't be explained away by mere coincidence. Strange occurrences that all pointed towards one horrifying fact. Your new tenant might be a serial killer. Hello, I'm here to tell you the story of the real tenant from hell. This is part 10 of the true horror series based on actual events. If you like scary stories, then stick around until the end, because I've got plenty more where that came from. A small seaside town, a quaint little cottage, a job with a steady income. What could be better than being a letting agent? It was perfect for Maria. She was able to work from home and spend time with her kids. Plus, it was flexible enough that she could take on extra jobs and get ahead at work. The pay wasn't bad either. In fact, it was good enough that when a new client contacted her about renting his beach hut, she was willing to overlook the red flags. The guy, who went by the name of Andrew, seemed nice enough over the phone. He told her about himself, asked questions about the rental, and sounded like a perfect tenant. But then he mentioned he was coming from Los Angeles and was moving to New York to start a new job as a financial advisor. That just didn't sit right with Maria. People from LA rarely moved to New York. It was the other way round. But it was too late to back out now. They'd already exchanged contracts and Andrew had paid his first month's rent in advance. All Maria could do was keep her fingers crossed and hope for the best. But even before Andrew arrived, the problems began. There was the power cut. Then there was the problem with the heating, followed by the flood. By the time Andrew had moved in, Maria had spent thousands of dollars repairing damage to the property. And it was only the beginning. She first met Andrew in person when she dropped off the keys. He was tall, handsome, and impeccably dressed. He greeted Maria warmly and immediately began to show her around the house. As they walked through the rooms, Andrew kept up a constant stream of chatter, telling her about himself and his plans for the city. Maria listened politely while keeping a close eye on Andrew. Everything about him seemed off-center, like he was trying too hard to make a good impression. After the tour, they sat down to discuss the lease agreement, but Maria couldn't focus. Andrew was acting strangely. He kept glancing at the door, as if expecting someone to come in and interrupt them. He also seemed nervous when talking about the house. For example, he was evasive about the number of bedrooms. When Maria mentioned that she thought there were 4, he quickly said, "No, 3. Then he tried to change the subject. As soon as Maria signed the lease agreement, Andrew reached for his checkbook. He wrote a check for $3,000 and handed it over to her. "That's 1 month's rent," he said, "and I'll make sure to pay the rest of my bills on time." Maria took the check, thanked him, and tried to make small talk. But Andrew was already on his way out. "I have some stuff to unpack," he said, "but don't worry, I'll be right back. I just want to say hello to the neighbors and get acquainted with the area." With that, he was gone. Maria watched him go and couldn't help but feel uneasy. Something about Andrew just didn't sit right with her. She couldn't put her finger on it, but she had a feeling that he was hiding something. Over the next few days, Maria tried to put her uneasiness out of her mind. She was a professional after all, and she had a job to do. She needed to make sure that Andrew was paying his rent on time and that he wasn't causing any damage to the property. On the plus side, Andrew did both of those things. He paid his rent on time and he never caused any damage to the property. In fact, he seemed like the perfect tenant, always neat and tidy, always polite. Maria couldn't find anything wrong with him, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Every time she saw Andrew, she couldn't help but notice his strange behavior. For example, he always seemed to be in a hurry, always in a rush to leave. He never stayed around for more than a few minutes. Then there was the matter of Andrew's guests. They came and went at all hours of the day and night, Maria often came home to find strange cars parked outside Andrew's house. She would peek through the windows and see strange people inside. She never saw Andrew with any of these people, though. He always seemed to be out when they arrived and in when they left. Maria tried not to worry about it. After all, it was none of her business what Andrew did in his spare time. But still, she couldn't help but wonder who these people were and what they were doing in her client's house. One day, Maria decided she'd had enough. She was going to find out what Andrew was up to once and for all. She broke into his house while he was at work and found out the truth. Inside Andrew's house, Maria found a whole host of strange and disturbing things. First, she found several pairs of women's shoes. They were all different styles, but they were all the same size. Then she found a pair of women's jeans. They were ripped and torn, but they were clearly expensive. Finally, she found a locked wooden chest. It was hidden under a pile of clothes in the closet. Curiosity piqued, Maria tried to open the chest, but it was no use. She finally gave up and decided to go downstairs. There she found a basement door that was also locked. With a sense of dread, Maria slowly opened the door. Down in the basement, Maria found a dark and dirty bathtub. It was filled with old towels and rags. In the corner of the room, she found a bucket. It was filled with what looked like cleaning supplies. But when Maria leaned closer, she saw that it was actually full of human skin. Maria screamed and ran out of the house. She called the police and told them what she'd found. When the officers arrived, they searched the house and found several more disturbing things. They found a hidden room in the basement that contained a torture rack, chains, and other restraints. They also found a number of personal items belonging to several women. As it turned out, Andrew was a serial killer. He'd been targeting young women and bringing them back to his house. He would torture them, then kill them, and finally dispose of their bodies. When the police arrested Andrew, Maria was relieved. She'd finally be able to sleep soundly in her own bed again. But that wasn't the end of the story. As it turned out, Andrew had quite the following. After his arrest, Maria was flooded with messages from women all over the country. They all had the same story to tell. They had all been in a relationship with Andrew, and they had all narrowly escaped his clutches. Some of the women had been tortured by Andrew, but they managed to escape. Others had been held captive, but they were eventually let go. Still, others had been killed by Andrew, but their bodies were never found. As Maria read through the messages, she couldn't believe what she was reading. She had unwittingly given a serial killer a place to stay in her own town. She felt guilty for not doing more to stop him. But as the months passed, Maria began to heal. She threw herself into her work, helping other victims of crime and eventually finding love again. These days, Maria is a successful private investigator. She travels all over the country, helping people who have nowhere else to turn. She's also an advocate for victims of crime, speaking out against violence and working to help other survivors move on with their lives. As for Andrew, he's still in prison. He was convicted of several counts of murder and is serving life without parole. Some people say he's innocent, that he's just a victim of circumstance. But Maria knows the truth. Andrew was a monster. He was a serial killer who preyed on young women and used his charm to fool everyone around him. If you want to hear another terrifying story from me, then why not try one of these? Just click on the screen to let me know which one you want to watch next. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.